Call the Facilities Committee meeting for Wednesday, December 18th to order. Let me lead us in an invocation, please. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day, and as we enter this holiday season, help us to remember what it's all about. Thank you for your Son who came to this earth, and just help us try to remember what he's done for our lives and how we should live our lives. Thank you for that example. Thank you for the love and concern you have for all of our people, and just be with the joint water and sewer employees and their families this holiday season, and help those that are traveling to have safe travels. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Is there any public comment here?
Yes, sir.
Public comment. We'll move to the approval section of the minutes. First is minutes from the November 20th, 24 Facilities Committee meeting. Can I have a motion?
Second the motion.
Second, all in favor. Motion carries 3-0. Next item is Howard Coffin Park well casing repairs. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. We did a video inspection of the Howard Coffin well. We were getting quite a lot of sand settling out in the bottom of the ground storage tank. And during that video inspection, it was determined that the casing is compromised in several different locations and is allowing sand to accumulate as it's pulling through the well, and it's also reducing our pumping efficiency. So we went out to bid. We offered two options for people to bid on, whether they wanted to put a smaller section of pipe in and grout around the annular space, or actually just CIPP line the entire casing. We had one bid received from Woodrow-Sapp Well Drilling, and it would be to install a section of smaller casing and then grout around that. Installing the smaller casing will not affect the capacity of the well, because the well pump is the limiting factor, not the actual size of the well itself. And with one bid, the low bid from Woodrow-Sapp was $209,500. Estimated time to repair is 2 to 4 weeks. And so if this is awarded today, this will hopefully be wrapped up in January, and then we'll be able to get that well back online very early in the new year.
Have a motion?
I'll move the Facilities Committee recommend the full commission approve the repair of Howard Coffin well casing by Woodrow-Sapp Well Drilling, Inc. in the amount of $209,500.
Second. I have a couple of questions.
Sir?
Did you look at the video of the casing?
I did not personally look at the video, no, but there's like a 19-inch hole in this section that we're covering up.
Do we have access to that video?
Sure, we can get that video for you. Yeah.
We ought to have it.
Yes, sir.
And then the pump, the existing pump, we're going to be reusing the existing pump.
We'll reuse the existing pump. Yes, sir.
Fit inside that new casing pipe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it will. From everything we're being told and looking at it, it looks like it'll be fine. It should just literally be a small section in there that be a little bit smaller, but it shouldn't cause us any problems.
You're going to put a steel casing inside?
Mm-hmm.
Does this have a screen at the bottom of this casing?
So it's got baskets.
Right. Bottom.
How long has that well been in service?
I don't know since when the last time that existing well had been rehabbed, but that well was installed, I believe, in the 40s or 50s. It's been there a while.
What did they say caused the hole in the casing?
I don't know that we know what caused the hole in the casing, honestly.
Abrasion problem.
I wonder why it happened at that location. And we've had to replace the pump, I'm sure, through those years.
Yes, sir. The pump's been replaced multiple times through the years. Yes, sir. And the motor has been replaced several more times than the actual pump itself.
I'll understand what they're talking about doing, putting a casing pipe inside the casing pipe.
Right, yeah.
Routing the annual
Right.
side.
So that just avoids the areas that are open.
A smaller
Right.
section, and then, but
Right.
in general, it wouldn't cause us any problems.
If the problem came from electrolysis or something from the soils or something like that on the exterior, this would eliminate that being a problem on the new casing by being grouted in like that.
And this is less expensive than replacing the whole thing, obviously. Yeah.
It It'd cost you probably 7 figures to drill a well that size today.
Do you corrosion protect the new casing at all?
No, sir.
We don't have electrodes on any of them, do we?
No, sir. Wouldn't be a bad idea to install some cathodic protection on there, just if it is electrolysis.
You might
causing
check
it.
with a well drill and see.
Yeah, wouldn't be a bad idea. That's a good question. I hadn't considered that, but that may be something, be a fairly low cost way to.
That's why I was wondering what caused the hole.
Right. So we can check in on that. That'd be a very low cost adder if we need to do that.
Kind of curious about the first one, brine killed well. What exactly is that?
Locks it down, heavy salt solution, it locks the pores that open the door to slow down the flow. So if it casing in there, otherwise the artesian flow will blow the grout. They'll be fighting that. So I believe what it is,
It kind of
locks-
cleans it too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sir?
Cleans it too.
It could. They'll surge it afterwards and flush it all back out, open those holes back up. The open hole section below the casing when it's in rock. That's my understanding.
I didn't actually know that.
They'll video when they get through.
Yeah, so they'll do a reinspection of the video when they're through, yes, sir. And we can get copies of that as well.
How much does the liner actually go on the inside of the casing? Does it go down flush against the casing, or we're talking?
There's an annular, so it's a 20-inch well, and we're putting in
16 inch.
16-inch casing, 2 inches around that'll be grouted, and it's a 14-inch well pump. So it'll still slide down inside the 16-inch without any problems, but there'll be a 2-inch gap that is grouted up.
And they've assured us the pump will pump.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Carries 3-0. Next item is memorandum of understanding, McKenzie Road and DePrater Lane Extension Road Project. Mr. Burris.
Todd, can you pull up GIS, because I'm assuming we're going to need that for this discussion. All right, Glynn County has a, sorry, it's a little hot, project to reroute and extend the right-of-way on what is known as DePrater Lane from McKenzie Road up 341 to create a new roadway and a loop through there near where the school system is, and there's some development that is going in up there. As part of the original bid package, they included some water and sewer improvements, and traditionally what has occurred is relocations that are caused by roadway projects are the responsibility of the city or the county, whoever's installing the roadway. Improvements or extensions are the responsibility of JWSC that we request to be installed at the time, so we don't have to go back in the same location. They received 2 bids for the project, with the apparent low bidder on the overall project for the roadway extension being Georgia Asphalt Producers at a little over $2.5 million. We re-examined the bids when we received it, and I will say that I did mention there are development going on. There's 2 new subdivisions that are going in this area, and Todd can point them out for you now on large tracts adjacent here. And so the plans that were approved for the development, it was kind of a state of flux where the plans were approved while this was being bid out. So the first development, the one closest to the existing roadway, the piping is already installed and connected to the existing water system. And so originally the water route was going to be a little bit different when the project was bid out, but we're just going to pick it up from where they tied in at and bring it down the new right-of-way. So that we're not taking some brand new piece of pipe out that they just installed. Also in the original bid, there was some sewer relocation. That sewer relocation was going to be if the second neighborhood had already installed sewer. Well, they have not kicked off construction yet, so we don't have to relocate that sewer. They can tie in where they still plan to tie in because the pipe is not existing now, so we have no reason to relocate that. So after looking back through that, the calculated water main improvements, there are no sewer improvements associated with this project now. The low bid from Georgia Asphalt Producers on the total bid was $252,320. I will say, if you look at the bid tab not the Glynn County bid tab that shows the 2.5 million, but the last page is a bid tab that we created internally between the two bidders. We are actually spending more money than the second bid for this, but with the low bid overall being Georgia Asphalt Producers, we would be entering into an MOU with Glynn County for them to manage the project and us to reimburse them the cost of our work at this $252,000 number. Given the fact that we didn't have to go through the bidding process and the project management and all those associated things, there's not enough a gap here for us to not go ahead and award this even at the slightly higher amount of money for this project. And we certainly don't want to be going in after they install new right-of-way and having to tear things up right after the project is done. So this gives us a loop in the North Mainland system, back there, like I said, the school and multiple neighborhoods going in back there as the new right-of-way comes in. And it's also a portion of this will be stubbing out to the edge of the right-of-way at parcels along the way for future extension opportunities as they present themselves. There's a big track up there that we're working with them about potentially acquiring easement to go across their property to extend water north towards the Sterling intersection.
Is that DOT property?
DOT property to the south right there, yes. So that's DOT property. You've got the park right there adjacent to them, and the large parcel to the north is now currently owned by one of the banks.
Motion?
I'll,
Move that the Facilities Committee recommend entering into an MOU with Glynn County for the McKenzie Road and DePrater Lane Extension Road Project in the amount of $252,320.
I'll second the motion.
Any questions?
I guess my question would be is, so the county's not going with the low bid either. So they've kind of made the determination that they're not going with the low bid.
The county is going with the low bid. This total value here,
I'm looking at this one here, it says Georgia Asphalt's $2.5 million and the other people are $2.7 million.
yes, the low bid is, so Georgia Asphalt's who we're going with, 2.5.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, so ours comes at about 20,000, 25,000 more for Georgia Asphalt Producers, and that's simply because Georgia Asphalt Producers is going to sub the work out for water and sewer. Seaboard was going to self-perform. That's really the only difference. Plant improvement was going to self-perform, sorry.
Do we ever have an opportunity to separate this out with an MOU so that we could do the work at a lower price?
We could potentially do that, but then we'd have to rebid the section for ourselves, and we would get way off schedule with what they're
Or
doing.
I'm not talking about this instance, but I mean in the future.
In the future, we could potentially do it as different divisions and do it that way. That'd be a purchasing question of how they would best handle that. We could bid them out at the same time, potentially separate contracts.
Well, the problem comes into is that we used to have is whenever a contractor gives you a bid, if you start picking and choosing on areas of the bid that you want, that changes the overall price, not necessarily comparable to what you took out.
Right. Yeah.
It's just opened up Pandora's box. So if you go with the bid, you actually have to go with the whole bid.
Right.
But then on the other side of the coin, are we still not going out by division as far as bids?
Yes, we do for some things. Glynn County bid it out as one project. So this was bid out through Glynn County because the bulk of the work is the right-of-way and storm improvements.
This is,
We could have had a separate division just for the utility.
But then we theoretically could have done that ultimately as the bidding agency. That would have been up to Glynn County of how they wanted to construct their bid
How did we
package.
do L Street? Did we have a separate?
We did not have a separate on L Street. We signed basically the exact same document here with L Street. We did this on the Village Phase 1 and 2 improvements. We did this on a couple of the, I know like the East Beach Roundabout, we did one of these for. So these are fairly commonplace, and
Will we be doing inspection on this?
we'll be providing some level of inspection of our assets on this, yes, sir. But Glynn County will have their inspectors on the whole project.
So if our inspectors notice a problem, is there any issue with getting Glynn County? Is that what we need?
No, absolutely not. No, we work really well together on these projects. They'll present to us. Yes, that's correct.
We have to pay them the $252,000.
Typically, they wait to the end of the project and just bill at the end of the project. They could do progress payments. They've never done that before, but they could. So in that case, it's not a bad deal for us because we don't have to cut the whole check till the end. But traditionally, that is what has occurred. We haven't done one. I mean, this is not a huge contract. I'm sure if we bid one out that was $2 or $3 million, they'd probably want some progress payments along the way.
Probably.
We reviewed the plans and we're satisfied with it.
We've done a lot of work with Georgia asphalt producers over the years, and we don't know exactly who their sub is, but we know who they traditionally use for subs, and so we've had good successful projects with them in the past.
Questions? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 3-0. Item 4 is Academy Creek gearbox repair, Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. So, as you may have remembered, we've been cleaning out the AB3 at Academy Creek like we did with AB2 earlier this year. As part of that, getting ready for that, we did some inspections on the gearboxes and made sure we knew how they were going to be disassembled and pull those mixers off. And this gearbox here, we realized it was having some problems. It was making a lot of noise. And upon inspection, we sent it to K Machine. They came and pulled it and inspected it, and it needs all new bearings and seals to be returned to usable condition. We got a quote from K Machine to do the work, which they provided at the end of October. The quote, $31,680 for about a 16-week lead time. Given that $32,000 is a lot of money to repair something, we got a quote from the manufacturer's rep in order to replace the gearbox, and that's $113,000 and 12 weeks. So to save 80 grand and only have to take 3 more weeks or 4 more weeks to get it here, we recommend moving forward with the repair with K Machine. We can purchase a new gearbox. They will put us at the head of the line for a new one for $169,000. Which I'll be honest, I'm actually surprised. It's the first time anyone's ever told me that I could spend more money and get it here quicker. And in some situations, that might be the solution. But we recommend here moving forward K Machine to get this repaired, get the new bearings and seals, put in this gearbox, get it brought back down here and reinstalled, and the total to do that is $31,680.
Motion?
I'll move the Facilities Committee recommend the full commission approve the repair of the Academy Creek Aeration Basin 3 gearbox by K Machine Industrial Services, LLC, in the amount of $31,680.
Second, any questions?
Have you used K Machine before?
Yes, sir.
You're happy with it?
Yes, sir. They do very good work.
That's a heck of a difference between the two companies.
One's new, one's a repair.
So Rogers Turner won't rebuild it?
Well, they will, but since K Machine's got it broke down in their office, we'd be paying them a fee to reassemble it and then ship it to Rogers at that point. The unfortunate thing is when we get somebody to come in and take a look at something, they break it down in their office, and it becomes a challenge at that point for anybody else to give you a quote.
Now, when you called K Machine, did they give you any kind of quote before they broke it down?
No, we called them and asked them to take it to their office and inspect it. So no, so we didn't have a quote from them in advance of anything they were going to do.
We rebuilt other gearboxes.
We have rebuilt some gearboxes at Academy Creek. We've used different providers. K Machine has been recently very effective for us and cost effective. But we are looking at maybe not the big gearboxes on the aeration basins, because those are very important, starting to try to rebuild some of the smaller gearboxes in-house and get the staff more confident with doing that. Like on this job, I think the bearings are $18,000 to $20,000 just to purchase the bearings. So they're not there's not that much labor in there. If it's $20,000 for the bearings, that's just.
What horsepower is it?
I don't remember what horsepower these are.
Speed?
It's a 1180 RPM, 40 horsepower.
How many do we have on each basin?
We have 4 gearboxes on aeration basin 2 and 3, and 12 smaller gearboxes on AB1. So you have 1 per stage on aeration basins 2 and 3. Aeration basin 1 is the oldest, and it's got 12 different small gearboxes on it. And they're not all the same size, which makes it a real joy. At least on ABs 2 and 3, they're all the same size. The 12 on aeration basin 1 are there's 4 different sized gearboxes amongst the 12.
We get a warranty at all.
I mean, within reason, I don't know that they're gonna. We don't have anything in writing. If it doesn't work immediately when they bring it back, they'll go back and work on it. But if it's 6-8 months later, no, you're not gonna get any warranty with it.
I would just get a little leery that once you get a machine in here to break the equipment down, you're basically committing to them for the contract without getting the price. We used to have this issue previously, and it turns out that we could get other companies, but you actually have to get them to commit to a price before they break it. Because if they're breaking it down, of course that company's gonna have the first dibs, and it's gonna be hard to beat.
You could potentially, if you were doing these on a planned basis with basic repairs you wanted to do, I know I'm going to replace all the bearings and the seals every 10 years, whatever that number is, just throwing numbers out. You could easily get quotes on that. But if we don't know what is wrong with it, I don't know how we're going to be able to give people a scope of work to actually give us a quote. Unless we were able to pay somebody to essentially break it down in our office and let people come by and take a look at it there.
Do these gearboxes, are they on any type of program maintenance? So whether or not they break down, do you actually get them scheduled to be kind of rebuilt?
They're not on any programs as far as replacement or rehab now. We've, in the last couple of years, began doing a lot better proactive maintenance on them, but the unfortunate reality is when you start doing that, you find a lot of more problems when you start doing that if it hasn't been done in years. So they are consistently done with preventive maintenance now, and we are looking at them more closely as we're cleaning these aerators off. So that's why we found one, and then there may be another one that we have to take a look at too, because it's starting to make quite a lot of racket. So it's probably got some bearings going out in it as well. They're mixers, yes, sir. They're called aerators, but they're just mixers. They're mechanical mixers.
So basically, the benefit of having one over two is is one a backup, or is it, you need two to get better mixing?
We need
two helps for mixing.
Well, the way those work, the mixers, when they rotate, they throw the sewer in the air, and so that allows the oxygen's injected into the headspace between the water and the concrete, and then that entrains the air. It's a very unique mixing system for what you would traditionally see, and so we get the multiple mixing allows better oxygen transfer instead of just riding along that headspace.
Any questions?
Is this the first time you saw demands? I've seen demand pricing kind of like that.
Honestly, that's the first time I've ever been told they can get it done quicker if I'll pay them more money. Because I have offered that in the past for people. I will pay you more money if you can get it here in 2 weeks, and they can't do it. So if people are looking at doing that now, there may be some scenarios in the future where that makes a lot more sense.
Gone to Disney World or something first.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty fast.
I mean, I'll be honest. If you're looking at a situation where you got a pump you need to replace and they can get you a pump in 2 weeks versus 16 weeks versus having to pay 16 weeks of bypass, it may make a lot more sense to pay extra at that point.
If you're already getting the parts and everything for this pump, but you said another one, or mixer, but you have another one that's starting to sound bad, can you go ahead and order bearings?
That's what we're looking at, is go ahead and seeing what we could get the bearings for ordered into the shop, and perhaps get pricing on people just to come pick all that up and reinstall it. This one had water in the oil, so we don't know exactly how that happened. That's not a good sign that happened.
How old is the piece of equipment?
Well, that was original gearbox from when it was installed in the late 80s. So it's a 35-year-old gearbox, which, I mean, gearboxes, if they're maintained, they'll run a long time. So
Not 35 years.
they shouldn't run 35 years.
That doesn't seem feasible.
It should have been kind of replaced a long time ago.
Yeah. I have no other questions.
Questions, all in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is Academy Creek. Okay, dedication of easements and infrastructure. Mr. Klein.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to have this item on the agenda. This is two different projects. First one is Outlot K, which is simply a utilities easement. Outlot K is over by Sam's Club, Canal Crossing area, and if you've been by that direction recently, you've probably noticed a chicken salad chick that now exists out there, which was highly anticipated by some. This is simply an easement across, well, on the rear of the property. Let me jump down here to the document so we can take a look. That covers the array of meters and backflows. So that is simply this right here. This easement is rectangular shaped easement around. Covers that. Now what you don't see, you may say, hey, there's a water line right here too. We already have an executed easement. It's just not been recorded in GIS yet. So that's why it's not shown up on this document. We already do have an easement existing over our water line to the right of way. So today's easement is simply this line right here. A little bit of water line up to the point of public or private ownership demarcation, which is the backflows and meters. Second item is Wawa. They're at 341 and Community Road. So I'll take a little more time to, a little more involved with this one. Take a little more time to explain that one there. Now in a previous commission meeting, the board did accept an easement across the property adjacent to the Wawa parcel. I'll show you which one I'm speaking of. That is this. Okay, so Wawa is right here. You can see the fuel station. Wawa parcel. Property line right here, adjacent parcel, which there's a car wash going in right now. You'll notice an easement coming down the offset off this easternmost property line against the road right away that comes this way. That is to facilitate this force main that we're talking about today. It's come from Wawa. Wawa installed this force main to service theirs. We obtained this easement from adjacent property owner at the same time so that we can then get customers along the way on that same force main. There is not convenient depth gravity system in this area to serve, unfortunately, via gravity. So it is, Wawa has a private grinder station or small package pump station, and then via this 2-inch force main along our existing easement, they then come down here and discharge to stormwater sewers manhole right here, which they also line. The other piece of infrastructure involved with this dedication is the water line, which does not show up yet on GIS, but it is in our record drawings. And that is this piece of water line right here. It's worth noting that, let me show you, kind of going back and forth, but I think it's worthy to talk about. Previously, our water system did come up Community Road, headed here, and terminated pretty much here at the corner of the Parkers. I think it's the Parkers in the front, with a 2-inch main that then went this direction up Municipal Highway. That was the extent. We did not have readily available water on this side of Community Road. Wawa, as part of their project, did reach across via jackboard casing, got underneath Community Road, via permit, casing in, and brought across to their side. And they also brought a water line extension. Flip back to the record drawings. And that's exactly what this is right here.
Circle K, Wawa, and Parker's all in that one interchange.
They're all open right now, sir. Yes, sir.
They're all open, yes.
And it's a flower shop across the street, or something like that.
There's Little Pumpkin Patch folks might remember kind of catty corner, which is now, I'm not sure what they're doing there now, but they're selling storage unit.
And all of those are on pressure systems,
They all are on pressure systems.
including Christian Renewal.
Yes. That's correct. no readily available with sufficient depth gravity sewer in the area, unfortunately, for those folks to connect to.
What buildings were there before Wawa bought
Before Wawa, a long time ago, it was an Ace Hardware. Then it was a tire
It's
store.
a tire store,
Tire
yeah.
shop, yeah. most
Yeah,
recent.
used tire store was the most recent occupant there, and that's all gone now. And behind it were the,
it? There was an upholstery company in there too, isn't
oh, what was there? Yeah,
It's
okay.
all gone.
So, the water main part of this dedication here is the casing of water underneath Community Road. Comes down here also with, fire hydrants and appurtenances. And they came and they brought it all the way to the end of their property right there. We're ready to tie on this and carry y'all, in the future. And, fire protection, water service, in good shape for whoever comes next. And this is right here is the car wash. It's under construction.
it? So are we taking the pressure line on their property?
No, sir. So I'll go back up to the, sewer drawings here.
What about where the car wash is going? Is that gonna connect to that wet well there, the
The-
grinder pump, or how's that gonna connect?
They're gonna be on their own grinder pump that they will manifold into, if the board accepts this force main. They will manifold into that force main. So it'll be a public force main. We can accept new customers on that along the way, and we'll obtain car wash via their manifold to the force main. This pump station here, the package station, is gonna be private. All this line to these isolation valves will be private. So they'll own and maintain their own pump station, package station.
Why is it gonna be private? Did Wawa just put all that in?
They did. They are the sole user of the package station, and it does not meet the minimum flows for public dedication for the standards. So if it's single user, if it was multiple users, we would consider, and it met a certain flow rate, and
I guess my question would be is, okay, in that particular location, future commercial development almost guaranteed, why wouldn't we have insisted on some type of JWSC manhole lift?
could have been, they would also have to build it to our standards, which includes parcel size, more in-depth with the, SCADA panels, all this. There's a lot higher cost to that as well if they're going to build a public station.
My concern would be is, a lot of these commercial places, it's bad enough where individuals get grinder stations connected to joint water. Because then when those grinder stations go bad, just like some of those other developments that we didn't take, they're gonna call and complain to joint water. But now we're looking at a commercial institution who's gonna be responsible for maintaining their pump station.
That's correct, yes.
And everybody down that back road there, down that back easement, is gonna be responsible for their own grinder station.
That's correct.
We own the force main?
And we own,
And we
yes,
own the force
it's public force.
It's got a flush connection on it, don't it? Has it got a flushing connection on it?
I don't know if it had a flushing connection in that length.
Can't back it out.
There would have been,
Force main does.
let's see.
Most of the low pressure systems, or pressure systems, have flushing connection where we can jet them, but we can't vac them.
Depending on the length, we'll put them every 1,000 feet.
Yeah, there's a flush connection assembly right there, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, so there's one on the top end of it, so it can.
So if it ever gets clogged up downstream, we can jet that to the manhole, and then we could retrieve whatever it is in the manhole downstream. This is obviously a very tricky area with the railroad right-of-way involved as well.
Right. If you may remember, there was a lot of talk, or a little bit of talk, about the existing buildings out here where it narrows down. Let's see.
341 too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You got GDOT right-of-way, railroad right-of-way. It's a very interesting place to have to get water and sewer to.
Yeah, it's narrow, so it doesn't even meet, at least 15 feet worth of easements are typical for a single line pressure main, and it even bumps in just a little bit right here. What was the other option? The railroad's not gonna let us jump out into their right of way and run linearly, or whatever with the, longitudinal with their tracks. It really was the only option developers could come up with to work with us. It works, we're able to get the customers, they're able to do their projects. This would have been a huge impediment to their project if they could not connect to our public sewer.
What's the size of the water line, Todd?
That's 12 inch. I believe it's 12 inch. And let me confirm that.
Going underneath.
Yeah.
Now, this is not because of this scenario, but anytime there is a water line under a GDOT right of way, we own it, regardless, because we are the required permit holder by GDOT when water and sewer lines are installed. So we do own that 12-inch water main under that 5 lanes of traffic right there at Community Road.
Correction, 8 inch.
8 inch, okay.
8-inch water main. It's 12-inch they tied into.
Tied into the 12 on the other side of community.
The other
That's
side, but
correct.
the 8-inch water main under Community, we do and we will own, and that has nothing to do with this project as a GDOT requirement. But it is in a casing, so that makes it a little simpler to deal with and keeps it from washing the road.
Parker's not, is it, they're on gravity, aren't they?
Parker's
This is on a
is
low
on their
pressure.
own private shared pump station, which they have a satellite agreement with
Closest
Hardee's.
gravity to this is on Old
Yeah.
Jessup down to Whitlock.
Yeah,
Closest gravity to this, and that is not deep gravity at all through there, because
It's
it's
not.
3 foot on B&W grade where the force main from 36 dumps in, and as big as that is, it doesn't get real deep till you get much further downstream. 'Cause that's 30-inch gravity on and up to 36 on Whitlock, I think,
I believe that's right.
somewhere in that ballpark, and so it is exceedingly flat out there at that size pipe.
Yeah, this is, the question was asked about Parker's. Parker's, Hardee's, the car wash, the storage places, they all share this private station here via satellite agreement. Which is basically a joint waters document that they all sign and agree to. They're gonna communally own and maintain the station.
I like this setup where they're on their own station way better than I like the setup of them all jointly owning a private grinder station.
That subdivision out there, we looked at extending sewer to.
Ellis Point?
At this point.
Yes, sir.
They were going gravity flow and have a pump station to pump into this one.
They were gonna, if we were able to sewer Ellis Point, there'd be a neighborhood pump station that pumped into the force main at Friendly Express.
Yeah, that would be likely this force main here.
Old home park back there.
Yes, sir.
There is,
Is it on pressure sewer too?
No, sir. None of that's on sewer.
all septic. I believe.
Robarts.
Yeah, they're all septic out there.
That's all septic. Yeah.
Same thing for Pickett Landing, I believe. Yeah, they're all septic as well.
There is interest from the neighborhood for us to provide water and sewer access, but it would cost over $20 million to water and sewer that neighborhood right now.
I will say this, I think they finally worked through the Glynn County machinations. Right here, Grace is gonna, I think that's the Amanda, homeless assistance place. I think they're all through their issues there. They're likely gonna have to extend water and sewer to their property. They're on the well right now. I think their septic system is being looked at, so we may have another future extension, maybe another opportunity to pick up more customers as well. Saved by Grace.
But we already have the easement that this line that they're requesting to dedicate today is in, correct?
That's correct. So yeah, that's the main point, is that the easement already exists. This has been before the board before. Everybody was on board with bringing that force main down through that easement. And now we have the force main that's being dedicated to us. And the water main.
It's 4-inch force main, isn't it?
4 inches, that sounds right. Look back at that.
Questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
We do a motion? We did, I don't think we did. a
We did
vote.
not do a motion, no, sir.
That's a 2-inch.
I'll move the Facilities Committee recommend the full commission approve and accept these projects with associated documentation.
I'll second.
Now we did.
All in favor? Motion carries 3-0.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Water production report, Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. So our beginning on our mainland, the obvious thing that jumps off the page, as we talked about earlier, the Howard Coffin well has been down for the last several months. So we're still, you're on the wastewater report, Ms. Janice. Oh, got the wrong thing attached. Check the other one, see if it just got reversed. Nope. Okay, is what it is. So if you look at that there, Howard Coffin, no flow for the last 5 months. That'll again be 0 flow for December, and then hopefully be back online towards the end of January, early February. But as a result, you see the increased flow at Goodyear Park. Those are the only 2 wells we really have in the old downtown district. So if one of them is out, the other one has to pick up most of that slack. We do overall fairly decent distribution of the flow. Significant reduction at Fletsey again, which is a little interesting considering how that had been ramped back up. So got to do some more research on there on that one. But 4.675 million for the month, which a little lower than where we have been year to date. And on our graph, a little lower than where we were at this point last year. I think that's a couple of contributions to that. One, obviously with the notices we're sending out about leaks and things like that, that is reducing our water usage as people are finding the leaks out more frequently and getting those taken care of. And also just there's a large water user on the mainland that no longer is pulling water, so that is reducing our water use as well. So on St. Simons for the month, about 2.4 million gallons, which again, it's lower than it was this time last year. I think the leak notices or continuous usage notifications is the main thing that's probably driving that number.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
When the Canal Road water production starts, do you have an idea about how much water that's going to pump? Have you projected?
Typically, I'd assume I mean, you're probably, best case scenario, you'd probably be around 500,000 gallons a day, and that would take some of the flow off of it. If it gets over 1 million gallons a day, you're starting to stress the well out a little bit.
Right.
So we try to keep them around 500,000, a little bit more if we can. So we got a few in that North Mainland district. When you're looking at, Ridgewood are running around 600,000 gallons a day. I-95 running almost 1 million gallons a day. The hope is we pull some of the demand off of those wells. And also reduce the demand on the Brunswick-Glynn well, as we talked about with the saltwater intrusion a couple of months ago.
Right. And is the Fletsey well fairly close to that area also?
Fletsey well is basically in the middle of Fletsey's campus out there.
Oh, it is, okay. I wasn't sure what.
But the Canal Road well that we're converting over will be tremendously helpful with all the residential development out there, and of course, continued development, Innovation Park, and the airport and things like that. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir. Like so,
Which ones are the Miocene wells?
Myocenes are Gold Niles 1 and 2, and Fancy Bluff. Fancy Bluff on the South Mainland, Gold Niles 1 and 2 on the mainland.
And where were the 4 complaints that we had?
I do not remember, sir. I know they were 4 complaints that we had. We had some dirty water complaints, but I don't recall exactly where they were at. St. Simons, again, 2.4 million for the month, which is again is lower. We did have Georgia, Florida at the beginning of the month, so the end of the month, the flow daily average was probably quite low compared to where we normally see it at, because the first weekend of the month was Georgia, Florida weekend, and that's usually a very high water use weekend. Most of the flow coming from Mallory and Airport, bulk of that flow being on the south end versus the north end of the island. But moving along well on the St. Simons there. And on the South Mainland, got our almost perfectly balanced for the month, about 12,000 gallons a day difference in the flow. I do know we have some level of recurring taste and odor issues in the Royal Oaks area, so we've increased our flushing out there because they got some longer lines that aren't looped together, and we need to get some water moving out there. Particularly, it seems to happen a lot more during the week. Folks are at work not using water during the day and get stagnant, and we start to get some complaints depending on how the water usage is going out there. So we've got that on a little more of a rotation for increased flushing in that area.
That should be alleviated when we put the loop in.
When we put the loop in, that'll really help out. Yes, sir. And then unaccounted for water for the month, about 11% unaccounted for the month, but still a pretty good number overall. Yeah, total water produced for the month between all three systems, a little shy of 7.5 MGD. So you do see the number of AMI meter readings is staying consistent, going up a little bit as we see growth in our system, but we're still above that 98.5% that we're shooting for with our AMI readings, and almost getting to the 31,000 water bill mark. So it's slow progress up, but you see the progress going up as we add new customers to our system.
When new development comes in, are we able to get the meters? We only have a limited stock, right, with the meters?
Ms. Pam, you want to?
We have enough, like with the project that was 272. Yeah.
Now, if somebody needs 200 laid in a week, sometimes we have to tell them, I can give you 50 this week, and we got to get some more meters in here.
Right.
Depends on but typically they don't come in that quantities at one time.
We could charge them on-demand pricing, maybe.
Some folks would probably be fine with that
I think
if they got them to the front of the line.
I know developers.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got them to the front of the line. They would be very excited about that opportunity. All right, wastewater report for the month. It was a mostly dry month following a mostly dry month in October, so you see some fairly low totals on the effluent readings for Academy Creek, 6.3 MGD leaving the facility. As it has been dry, you do see an increase in the concentrations coming into the plant. I did mention aeration basin 3 is still offline. It's being cleaned. It is being put back in service tomorrow. So we're finalizing reinstalling all the equipment today, and it will be turned back online tomorrow. We'll be slowly filling that basin to try not to churn up too much stuff that's still sitting in the bottom of that, because we did clean it out, but there's still a few inches of stuff in the bottom that we didn't get out, and we don't want to churn all that up very quickly. So we're going to slowly fill that over the next day or so. We have so far pulled out 40 truckloads of grit out of that basin, and we've got 5 to 8 more probably that still have to go out of the clarifier, because we pump into a clarifier and then we scoop that onto the back of the truck once it's dried out. So we probably got another 5, somewhere around, on average you do about 12 yards per truck, so around 480 yards that have been pulled out of there so far. So we should see that will rapidly improve the treatment capacity of the plant, because that's been consumed with the grit. So hopefully we'll start seeing those numbers head in the right direction. Next month's numbers are probably going to look very similar to this, but January numbers, we'll hopefully start seeing those trending in the right direction. But still, even with one basin out, 97% BOD and 98% TSS removal for the month. So you obviously can see the months of August and September pretty quickly when you jump out with the rainfall we had and the I&I issues we were having. We'll talk about it on the project report, but they are actively lining pipe in downtown in the 4002 basin, which seems to be helping some. We did talk about, we found an 8-inch pipe running full pipe, clear water into the system in the hospital basin, not at the hospital, but the basin around the hospital. And then we also, early November, plugged a line coming from the old gypsum plant facility that nothing is active on. And that seems to have knocked the run times on that station down about 30% since we plugged that line. So it's the 8 inches, that was a special scenario. You find one that's getting that much water, but as the term that tends to be used by staff, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. And so if you can find the larger paper cuts, it seems to make a much bigger difference. So since there are no active customers at the gypsum plant site, we have plugged that line. If somebody wants to use that site, we'll be happy to allow them to rehab that line before they utilize that structure. That goes into the 4001 pump station, which we're fixing to rehab, but will also help bypassing requirements during the rehab now that it's running significantly less than what it was. Dunbar Creek for the month, 2.8 million gallons a day leaving the facility. That number is down even further in December. We have found a collapsed line in the Dunbarton neighborhood that we currently have on bypass. Dunbarton is north of the main Sea Island Frederica on the left side, right before you get to St. Clair. So right outside the station, there was a line that they had previously done. There's no records of when it was previously done. Previously, a point repair was done, and they tied it in with Fernco couplings, and the Ferncos failed, and the pipe dropped. So that's now on bypass. That's going to be a challenging dig because it's right beside a pond, but it's about 17 foot deep. So we don't have anything in-house that can dig 17 feet deep, so we are renting the equipment to do that. Now, staff is very excited to ask for the opportunity to get equipment that will dig 17 feet deep, but as I notified them that we don't do that enough to pay that bill to buy that piece of equipment. So we will rent it for the couple of weeks we need it and then return it to its owner that paid the significant six-figure total to buy that piece of equipment. But the plant at Dunbar with the upgrades it's doing tremendous right now. So again, I'll point out that the ammonia reading leaving that facility rounds to 0 because it was below 0.05 for the month. So almost 99% BOD removal, over 98.5% TSS removal for the month. So that facility being operated very, very effectively with the new upgrades we got in place. And we're looking at options on the phosphorus removal before we move forward with that. We got to make that decision and notify EPD of how we're going to treat phosphorus with an updated DDR so we can work toward doing the permit expansion. But actually fairly close in line to where we were last year. The lines on the graph almost lay over on top of each other from last year. So, and at Southport, we are having to get the effluent meter recalibrated. That number seems out of whack, so we got somebody come in to recalibrate the effluent meter, confirm those readings. So I don't believe the number is 638,000 gallons a day in that facility, but I think the 434 is probably a closer estimate to where we are on the effluent. But either way, plant doing very well, 98%. That is not a typo. The BOD and TSS removal was exactly the same for the month, so which is odd that they will be the exact same to 2 decimal points, but it did happen this month because I checked when it did it to make sure it was calculating correctly, and it just happened to be the exact same. But that plant doing pretty well as well. So all in all, seeing improvement in our wastewater operations, and with the basin coming back online tomorrow, hopefully rapid improvement at Academy Creek as well. We do have the new DO meters online at Academy Creek to real-time trend the oxygen usage, and we're installing pH meters as well, and those should be online before the end of the month, barring any unforeseen setbacks.
When do you think we'll be able to meet the ammonia levels?
I haven't been down there today. My understanding is the new RAS pump showed up today. So they're going to roughly, they say 2 weeks, I say a month. We'll figure out who's right. But the contractor says it'll take them 2 weeks per clarifier to do that work. If it's 2 weeks per clarifier, all the RAS pumps are online by the end of March. I'd say it's probably closer to June before all that's online. So somewhere in that second quarter time frame. But getting the getting the aeration basin back online will certainly help that in the interim as well.
Looked at how much adding lime to increase the alkalinity. Or just going down pretty quick on that.
At which one? No, sir, we haven't, just because we have artificially high alkalinity because we're not removing ammonia right now. And I think the pH issues are because the RAS is going septic.
Pictures.
Right, Commissioners, thank you again. This is one of our favorite things to do each month, showcase what's going on out in the field with projects, capital projects. First one to talk about is the 4105, 107 basin improvements, wastewater collection system improvements. Project essentially complete. The last thing remaining is the final billing from the railroad for the permitting requirements, and then our contractor will pay that, we'll pay them, and the final adjusting change order will follow to close that project out. So looking forward, we're also going to working with operations to do a turn. And let's see how this thing runs with the new reroute of the force main. So just a couple pictures here. Typical roadway replacements for their point of connection where they discharge into the manhole, terminated the force main. Some striping going on and whatnot. We do a lot of this looking down at manholes and such. Yeah, that's a manhole. Receiving manhole. I want to put this picture in here so you can see, kind of showcase what this is. We affectionately call them urinals, but they're little catch basins that go inside fiberglass, that go inside receiving manholes. This pipe in here that you see, the green colored pipe for wastewater, is the discharge of the force main. So it comes in here and catches in this downspout, if you will, runs down and is deflected right into the receiving gravity and on out its way in the gravity collection system. It looks real dirty right there, and it is because it hasn't been cleaned yet. Like when we put in service, all that debris was cleaned out. Has been cleaned out since then. So last remaining items, of course, the necessities, the outhouses and whatnot are done with, and the rented equipment. So TB Landmark, our contractor, they're pretty much demobilized at this point. Next project, Arco area water and sewer extension, that is in progress, and I'm happy to report that the final remaining item is the last gravity connection to an existing manhole. Less than 100 feet to get that done. Once that's done, paving is planned to happen in January of 2025. So in case there was any doubt. So that project, you can look right here and you can see some of the unopened right-of-ways, alleyways that were utilized to stay out of the existing roadways, the paved roadways in Arco, for a lot of reasons: traffic disturbance, pavement replacement, all that kind of thing. So a lot of these unopened right-of-ways were used. You can imagine through the years, as unopened right-of-ways are acquired by adjacent landowners and all kinds of things.
Unofficially acquired.
Unofficially, yeah, unofficially acquired.
But used.
Occupied.
But used.
Yeah. So it was challenging, I think maybe a little more challenging than the contractor expected. If you'll recall, about halfway through the project, our contractor approached us with an idea: hey, let's get out of the roadways, try to utilize these existing right-of-ways, and the board was willing to work with them on that and use that idea, and this is where we're at now. But it was just to showcase some of the challenging situations they've got. Here's another good picture right here. Another unopened right-of-way. They ran the gravity sewer back behind. I'll throw this in here too. It makes a lot of sense to do this because a lot of times people's existing septic tanks are in the backyards. This makes it so much easier for them to connect.
Now,
to the new
that looks a little
gravity also.
soggy.
It's very, yes, it's
Leach
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
spodic soil, I think, is the
Yeah,
term for
okay.
that. So if you look back here, so this right of way was open, the gravity sewer run through here, and then you see a brand new fence, boom, already right back across
That's
the
good, yeah.
unopened right of way. So very quickly, we may see some reoccupation of that public land through there. Anyway, should see some closure to that project. We're hoping definitely first quarter 2025.
I'm going to hold you to that, Todd.
Well, that's why I said should. All right, Canal Road Water Production Facility, a lot of good progress going on out there. That's one of our good projects. You can see stuff going on. It's visible. It'll always be visible above ground. Nice ground storage tank there, and a split wall, split face block building going up. Looks real good. They're putting the bond beam up right there across the top. Inside the ground storage tank, pretty cool, I think.
What's the capacity of that?
It's a 200, I believe, 200 or 250. 250? 250, thank you. It's about what they could squeeze on circumference-wise onto that parcel that we obtained. That's going to give us a good volume for turnover. Mr. Burrs, as he said, this will likely turn over 500,000 gallons a day. It'll more than turn over this tank at least once a day. So,
You got to turn it over once a day, preferably twice a day would be ideal.
yeah. All right, so it gives some perspective there, a nice aerial view of there. And then again, I just like pointing out, this is Glynn County's Harry Jerkers Boulevard roadway realignment that's happening in the background here. That's their project. And what'll happen eventually, once they're done and have the new roadway alignment completed, this will be cut off to here, so traffic will no longer be able to come this way on this road. This will be cut off, and this road will be basically a dead end. And then we'll have to access it from Harry Jerkers and come back around here. We'll have our own kind of exclusive access, if you will. And then EPD will have theirs, Air National Guard, et cetera. So we'll have like a little dead-ended road right here. And I'm sure there'll be a buffer, probably planted, placed along this way. Shade our facility a little bit. Well, that's planned from Glynn County's scope of work. Another good shot there. Going very well. That's our well rehabbed. It was an existing well, if you'll recall. Underground work going on there for the piping going to the building. Good project. Next project to speak of is the, well, it's a group of three, but this is the 4002 pump station in downtown Brunswick. Kind of adjacent to Mansfield Street, in between there and the police station, substation over there, where the police cars park. Annex, city's annex. This is the electrical work going on, the panel, or the power panel right there. Generator connection back here, panel, et cetera, going in. And 4002 is wrapping up pretty quickly with electrical.
Goal, I was told Monday, the goal is to finish all the electrical before the end of the year. I don't know if that's a realistic goal or just a goal, but that's what they were informing our system pumping staff about.
Yeah. It's a nice station. Looks really good inside. Painted, rehabbed inside. Looks real good. 4044. This is going on around Scranton Connector area. We did have a little bit of night work last week, I think it was, last Wednesday. In case you saw that announcement go out where we actually had to close that part of the connector through the night. I think it went from 9 or 10 p.m. to about 6 a.m.
We did, at the last meeting, we discussed whether we would have to do that road cut, and it was a 6-inch force main to a 12-inch force main, so we did not want to neck it down from 12 back to 6.
Yes.
So that's why we went ahead and proceeded forward with cutting the road and recoring the manhole.
That's right.
I didn't know it was quite that big of a change.
Yeah, because we still got plates over that
Yeah.
road cut right now.
Right. They'll have at least one, probably maybe two more, go in. They're going to have to go in and coat the receiving manhole with our protection coating, and also go back and repave. So it's probably going to be at least two more road closures of sorts, planned road closures of sorts there. So very tight confines. The project is deep work. Very capable contractor. So far, so good. Good shot there. Looking at their, it's amazing they're swinging the excavators around, hauling these big things around that close to existing power lines and such. That's our existing pump station they're bypassing from. Keeping the wastewater moving right there. All right. Dunbar Creek, water.
Dunbar, very limited work done in the last month. The only things we still got to do are roadway improvements and finalize what we want to do on the phosphorus. We made some roadway changes. We will not be widening the full length of the roadway. We're just going to improve the existing width. And so that will be a deduct on the existing contract, but there will be an increase when we put the chemicals feed in for the phosphorus. And so we'll do it all at one time for net that out at the end of the contract. So there are two main ways we're looking at it. Currently, we're looking at alum and lime addition for phosphorus removal, but there's another product that we've been told about that they allege that you don't have to have the lime. You can just use their product and not use a secondary chemical, and removing phosphorus generates more sludge. They I say this, they say that you will get less sludge. That doesn't mean that you're going to get less sludge. You'll create less new sludge with their product than you will with alum and lime. Statesboro recently piloted the product, and they said they, in high flow events, still had to add lime. So we may pilot their product just to see how that goes. But if we have to add lime, if you got to have both the setups anyway, alum is cheaper on a rate basis than the other product is. But if you don't have add lime, then the other product becomes more competitive. So we'll see how that works. We have very low phosphorus coming into the plant anyway, so we shouldn't have to add that much chemical. But other than that, like I said, the improvements we've done at Dunbar Creek have paid off tremendously. So we still have a little bit of punch list work to do. Still got a leak on the weir box on the new clarifier, so it's not in service right now. That is reuse water that is in there now. They were doing the testing to see if the weir box was still leaking, and it was. But other than that, a couple of small minor punch list items, but not a lot. So basically roadway and then the new chemical addition.
Good.
Highway 17 North Pump Station, not much has progressed as far as construction on that. Our contractor, Popco, is looking to wrap up the other work they've got going on for us right now, or get further along with it, then they're going to jump on this. But they do have it under bypass. It is under their control, so they're paying for that bypassing and keeping everything moving right now. But they do have materials already stockpiled there at the mall tank. You see the structures and equipment stockpiled down there ready to go. That's the new wet well base and all the other components to that. Academy Creek.
Academy Creek, limited work in the RAS building so far. That's what they're doing there. They're laying out the new arrangements. The chopper pumps, again, we're supposed to show up today. I've not seen them yet, but I hope to get to see them today. We're getting 10. So those are supposed to show up today. Those will replace those orange pumps you see there. Those are not chopper style pumps. The new pumps are much larger, both in horsepower and just sheer size because of the chopper capabilities in them. So we're going to have to change the layout in there drastically with the piping. Reeves Young has went in and measured and laid out the piping. They have some questions about whether everything's going to fit. Our engineer has assured them it will fit, so they're discussing that amongst themselves. I have indicated that JWSC will not be responsible for any changes due to having to realign the piping if it doesn't fit when the engineer went down and physically measured it himself. So they will be figuring that out internally. Scroll on down.
I like how they got the valve.
Yeah.
You don't see that very often.
And then a lot of work going on in the UV. It looks actually much different than that now. That picture was probably taken a week and a half ago, and the subcontractor for Reeves Young that is doing that concrete work is moving. So there are now walls poured on all 3 channels, and they are coming along very rapidly with that project. They're supposed to be done with the concrete work in the first half of that basin, that upstream half of that basin before the end of the year, and then they'll start working on some stuff downstream. But it's a good drone shot that we got there, kind of showing what used to be there versus what's going in there now. So that's moving along quite well. Earlier this week, they did insert a valve on the reuse line. There was no way to actually, the valve on the existing reuse line was not functional, but rather than having to bypass to drain that to fix that line, they just did an insert a valve on it, which is you can insert a valve hot into the line. So that was done earlier this week, so we could shut that reuse section off so that it didn't drain the basin when we were doing some work out there. They are planning to start bypass on the effluent. We are doing some work on the effluent line, and that is going to be a very complicated bypass because they have to bypass it and allow us to sample out of the bypass. So they're submitting plans for that for us to take a look at, and so they have to go in and we're going to add a parallel line on the outfall to reduce head conditions at high flows, and so that work should be kicking off after the first of the year. They're going to build coffer dams and work we've got all the permitting required from the Corps, but they're going to build coffer dams and go down and work, and they're doing a slightly different concrete mix that sets a little quicker so they can get that back opened up as fast as they can. That's we're going to Academy, dude.
Yeah.
No, that project's still on schedule to be substantially complete in June. Academy is, yeah. Substantial completion scheduled for June with final completion after punch list and everything like that in August, so.
You know, if the contractor has an issue and he has some serious questions about the pipe fittings, and the engineer says, it'll work, I kind of lean towards the contractor a little bit, but the engineer is still certifying that everything's going to fit.
They are discussing amongst themselves right now. There's allegedly going to be a meeting tomorrow to figure out who's right and who's wrong. Regardless of the outcome, it will not be our responsibility to correct the problem. That has been made very clear and understood by the engineer.
Good luck with that.
Right.
In this situation, I don't know who's right or wrong. The engineer, I physically saw the engineer measuring it out, so I don't know exactly what the disconnect is. So he didn't go off of record drawings. He literally was down there measuring out the layout. I was with him when he did it, so I don't know exactly what the problem is.
I'm not sure he knows the exact dimensions of all the fittings.
Wasn't this column in the way, was it?
No, not the column. Not the column.
All right. Very good. Brunswick Villa area sewer extensions. Project is ongoing. And again, it's it's the same kind of construction you're going to encounter in an existing neighborhood. It's a lot of field fit, discovering things along the way, existing utilities and whatnot, but we are making progress. A lot of communication with the residents, going out there, bi-weekly meetings on site with our engineers, inspectors, and contractor. Another good shot of the existing stuff, existing manhole that tying into new sewer. Very tight. They are having limited road closures out there and having to facilitate trash collection, school buses, all that good stuff. So a little dirty through the project, but we'll have our customers in good shape once it's done.
They're taking the whole roadway out, aren't
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In some areas, yes. Most areas. And do just a reminder, on Kate Street, we did coordinate with Glynn County, who already had a roadway replacement schedule for Kate. So we were able to coordinate with them to delay their project just a little bit till we can get in there and get out and they can pave it. And, that will help us substantially with the paving costs. So. Next project mentioned before was 4002 CIPP, cured in place pipe project. That's a good shot of from the cockpit of the camera van or inspection van, Bionomics, our contractor. And I believe that's Billy's son.
That is Billy's son,
Yeah.
yes.
Is that Austin? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a family affair, which is kind of cool to see. Anyways, taking a look at one of the, I think it's a lined over or some defect
That's
they
a
found.
patch.
Let's see what they got
That's a
down here.
hole they found in the pipe that they patched around the outside.
Yep. Yep. So
Pre-CCTV, but that was a patch.
there we go. So all kinds of good stuff to identify and see.
I always
they're
tell
doing it.
people it's the closest you can get to playing video games for a living.
So this is part of the vacuum and cleaning process right here.
So as part of the project, we've cambered everything, but they come in and re-camera to establish existing conditions. Then they clean it, and then they post-clean camera it to confirm that the pipe is clean and ready for lining, and then they line it, and then they camera it again after that. So we get before, during, and after shots of everything.
Got some pretty cool video too. Happy to share if anybody has any desire to see it, of the lining process. Actually, we've got our UAV flying around. You can kind of see a really good perspective on how this actually works. The liner goes in and inverts, and pretty pretty interesting.
Some of these lines are taking a little longer than they expected because of the number of services that are tied into the lines. And so those have to, once they line it, they have to go back and cut all of those out. So some of them have taken a little longer than they would have preferred, but they do not leave the line segment until all of the services are reopened.
How do they cut what do they use to cut those up?
Basically, it's just a little cutter wheel. For want of a better word, it's a robot with a Dremel.
Yeah, it's got a burr bit on the
cut
end
it
of
out.
it. Interesting. I thought we had a picture in here of one of them, but yeah, it's just a articulated
Yeah,
rotary tool.
Yeah.
Burr bit they stick up there and they kind of ream the,
yeah.
yeah.
But they do it from the inside line
Inside
up.
of the line pipe, yes.
So how do you, once you line this, once they're done, they have a continuous
Mhm.
line. How do they know exactly where the tap end is?
Because when they
Definitely.
actually go through, they put the bag in the pipe, they invert it, and that fills the inside of the pipe. And so every tap, there's a little dimple, because as the water fills it out, it dimples out, so they know where all the taps are at.
Every one of them's got a tell that'll show you where it's at. Now the trick is, what's
Trick is not to overcut them, because then it leaks
Yeah.
around the
Right, right.
lateral.
right, not to overcut, and then also not to open up abandoned laterals, because it may
We
dimple.
did have a line over, I forget the name of the apartment complex that's over there. There was an old line that ran through the middle of the apartment complex. All their laterals go out to the side streets, and we needed to line that pipe. There was like 17 services that were all open. Now, they weren't all leaking full pipe or anything, but there's nobody tied to them, so they just lined straight through it and went on about their business because there's no active customers on it. Because when the redevelopment happened of the lot, they never killed the old services.
Any customers that are connected that we did not know were connected?
That is not as part of this project. That is actually an ongoing thing that we do. We have multiple staff members that are involved with that project. Dana Reed gets involved. He'll look and say, well, when he's doing his GIS work, he's putting stuff in sewer. And it's like, well, every other customer on the street has sewer access, but this guy's saying he doesn't. And then he put in a work order in. Our camera guys go out and confirm, yeah, he's tied in. And then we start adding him sewer. Now, at that point, we do not back bill them for sewer. It's just from that point forward. The building on the corner of MLK and G Street right here that was recently rehabbed apparently was on the sewer system for 40 years before anybody knew he was tied into the sewer. So we do find those frequently. And then Luke in our finance team, he also does a lot. He does a lot of the billing. He's a finance manager who's over billing, and he does a lot of data analysis on our billing systems and things like that. And he finds things where, again, there's 8 houses on the street and 7 of them have sewer charges and 1 of them doesn't. We don't automatically add sewer to it. We send a camera out and confirm that they're tied into the sewer. And sometimes they dispute it, and then we dye test their toilets.
New taps are we gonna get in Arco, Brunswick Villas, and Community Road?
Potential new taps, because we're not going to require people to tie in. There's roughly 400 parcels that aren't on sewer right now in Arco. It's like 280 in 260 in Brunswick Villa, something like that. 200, 250, whatever it is in Brunswick Villa. And there's 100 or so in community. Those are bigger commercial lots, so maybe 100 in Community Road, something like that.
We could have about 800 more customers.
Could, if everybody tied in.
Have you had people tying in now?
Yes, we've got 10 or 15 people already tied in Arco.
We're still working toward giving them, helping pay with tap fees or that program you're talking about?
Yes, sir. We're going through. Everything's got to be sent to the EPA for review, which is a process. Anytime the EPA is involved, that's going to slow things down. But we're working through that process now. We've been awarded the grant. The state of Georgia DNR is going to give us the grant. We just got to go through the paperwork process at this point.
But can we go out and notify the people that, hey, we've been given a grant, so if you want to tie in, go ahead and
We will be holding a public meeting once we get all the grant information together, so that we know exactly what steps will be required, so we don't have to inform people twice. Not that we mind informing people twice, but the likelihood of the same people hearing the same thing twice, will have different information out there. So we're going to hold a public meeting, likely somewhere near the Arco area, so it's convenient for people to get to, and we'll explain the whole program to them at that point. And speaking of information for our customers and from our customers, we sent out surveys, as you know, to all of our unknown pipe material customers. So those went out the second week of November, I believe it was. November, by the 17th of November, 16th, whatever it was. 16th of November. This is, as of this morning, we have got 1,652 surveys back.
That's awesome.
And how many?
We got 17,000 that we didn't know, so we're about 10% back so far. And we have selected our first $500 winner for the first 500. A customer in Waverly Pines was selected randomly out of the first 500 that was returned, and she will be getting a $500 bill credit added to her account. So, and then since we've got 1,600, we're going to draw 2 more very soon as well. Now, we did go out. We did get confirmation that the information provided was accurate, and they were. Derek Simmons, our water distribution superintendent, went out and personally dug it up himself just to confirm, and she was spot on. So she did receive her $500 bill credit.
Awesome.
Are the first batch of rafflees excluded from future raffles?
500 at a time.
Excluded from.
Detail.
So hopefully, I mean, hopefully people will. I think there would probably some lack of belief we were actually going to give away $500 bill credits. Hopefully now that we are giving away the bill credits to the first person and 2 more, we'll get more people that are interested in providing us with that information. We have had a handful of people that have told us their service is lead. We have immediately went up and dug them up, and they've all been galvanized. So,
good deal. Good article for the paper.
yes,
Put the word out.
so.
Cool. Nobody noticed the co-pilot here.
Yep.
Yeah. That's actually a rescue cat he rescued.
The
on
cat
the job.
is, I'm tell you what, the cat is very focused on what is going on there.
He's
well
intent,
done.
man. See if we can hire him. All right, some more pictures. That's actually the fill line for the water that cures the cured place pipe once it's installed. Here's a good shot of it, actually the liner going in and being inverted into place, and then the fill line being drug in behind it. That's about the halfway point when you see this. And then it pulls the sausage bag in, and then the water line is pulled in right behind it. And they fill the water bag, the blue line, with hot water, superheated water, and that cures it in place. There's a good picture of an existing manhole, you can imagine.
We do not use brick manholes anymore, but they're all over downtown Brunswick.
So,
Some of them are still in very good shape, which is kind of surprising at this age of their lifespan. But some of them are missing a few bricks.
that's some craftsmanship, no doubt. Really impressive.
There are brick sewers also in downtown,
Yeah.
not just brick manholes, and they are curved.
Yeah, really?
When will this be through?
Expected completion is early March.
Let's see, yeah, early March.
That was from our meeting this morning.
Update, news.
Updated meeting
Latest
this
and
morning,
greatest
early
information.
March.
So he's catching the, he's actually catching it in the bag right here right now. That piece of pipe is to keep it from jumping out of the hole too fast at him. You can see he's got his PPE on and all that. So that's tough work, real tough work. All right, that's the end of the pictures. And our detail for further information is included.
We do have, as we noted last meeting, the Exit 29 well and elevated storage tank bids are due January 8th. And then hopefully in January, we'll be releasing the community road bids for that installation and the 8 fixed generator bid as well. So those should be advertised in January. Depending on when we get them advertised, it may be March for they're awarded, but those should both be advertised sometime in January. We did have quite a bit of interest on our pre-bid, 5 or 6 contractors for the well site, and then there's really only 3 people that build elevated storage tanks, and they all were in attendance. So.
I make a motion that we adjourn for a small.
I'll second.
Or
Right.
personnel.
Personnel, yeah. Yes, I'll second it, yes. Okay. cleared out.
I have a motion to come
I'll
out
make a
of
motion
executive
that we
session.
come out of executive session.
Motion adjourned.
Second, and make a motion to adjourn.
Second. And we're adjourned.